Okay, so here is my artwork, and I'm sorry, this is my work table, and can everybody see my hand on my acrylic paints? Can you guys all see it? All right, good. Thank you, Brandon. Okay, so these are the materials I have. I have my acrylic paints, which hopefully you have, and I have a couple paper towels. I have this is just a container that I'm going to put my paint in and mix my paint in there. I have a paintbrush, and then I have another little container full of water. I don't know if you can see the water in there, but there's water in there. And then I have a sketch that I did of my sculpture, and then I added color in my sketch, excuse me, because I wanted to kind of like have some kind of idea figured out about what I was going to do with color. And then here's my sculpture. And I painted one side. Let me see if I could put this white behind it so maybe you can see it better. I painted one side just to give you like some idea of where I was going with this compared to my drawing. And now I'm gonna paint the other side. And now what I found out was kind of like the hardest thing to do was that I made a ton of texture in my sculpture. And so I really had to work my paintbrush like into the texture to get full coverage. So we're working with a limited palette. So I'm gonna take my acrylics out, and these acrylics are pretty good actually. They are not the cheapest um, acrylics I have ever used. Now I'm using primary colors, so I'm using yellow, red, and blue, and those are the colors that I'm going to use. Now you can use like, I noticed on Faith's, it looked like Faith, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but your sculpture looked like you used red, black, and white as your limited palette. Is that, oh, uh-oh, just got blue all over my yellow. Is that right? Would you say, would you say that you used a limited palette of red and white and black? Violet, purple, and white. Okay, great, great. Well, that is a perfect limited palette. So when they talk about a limited palette, which we'll actually discuss as soon as we're done our demo, they're talking about using three colors. Now, oh my gosh, when I was in art school after I graduated from college, I'm sorry, I graduated from high school and I went right into art school. And for the whole first year, for the entire first year, they only let us paint with one color and white and black. And you know what else we weren't allowed to use? We weren't allowed to use a paintbrush. For the whole first year, we had to paint with our palette knife and only use one color, and we could choose what color it was, and white and black. And then that wasn't for a whole year. That was for about like maybe 6 months or so, for some time. And then they let us add another color and then add another color. And then by the end of my freshman year, um, we had like, almost a full palette. But it really taught you how to be very creative. So I'm going to use blue first, and I'm going to put most of my blue down towards the bottom. And I'm just going to follow the flow that I think I've already established with the shape of my sculpture. So my sculpture, I want to look like it's kind of like rising up, and kind of the flow is kind of going out the top. So I'm going to make the visual balance weight also agree with the weighted balance. So I want it to look heavier on the bottom. And the way you make something look heavier on the bottom is to put most of the dark colors on the bottom and then go into the light colors towards the top. But I do want to, I'm going to add a little water to this to thin it out because it's a little thick. I do want to bring some of the blue up into the top because I don't want it to be completely bottom heavy. So I'm just going to bring just a couple little lines here and there to bring color up in there. Now, when I just added a little bit of water to my paint, oh my God, the ability to spread it around into the creases just like tripled. So if you are having a hard time pushing your paint around your sculpture, just add a little bit of water and it'll start to flow much better. Now I'm going to clean off my brush. I'm going to stop with the blue, but I'm going to use blue to mix in some purple. So I'm going to mix some red into my blue. Now the thing about mixing paint is you always add dark to light, right? So my red is lighter than my blue. So I'm going to take some red, right? And then I'm going to add some blue to my red. You never add light to dark because it takes so much paint to lighten a dark color, but it only takes a little bit of paint to darken a light color, if that makes sense. So you want to add dark to light because you'll get to the color that you want faster that way. Hope that makes sense. All right, now I'm going to add this purple color that I just mixed in like this. I'm just going to put it in some areas. Got to add a little bit of water so it flows much nicer. And I'm gonna start to work a little bit quicker now. And I hope that you guys are working on your sculptures at the same time. It'll be fun to show our sculptures at the end when we're done. So I'm just gonna try to follow the flow of my sculpture here. All right, that's more than enough purple. I didn't want to put a ton of purple on it. I want to stay more with the reds and yellows. So I'm gonna do my yellow next before my water gets too dirty. And I'm gonna use a lot more yellow than any other color because I want my sculpture to be kind of bright and sunny, right? So I'm gonna just put a bunch of, and I can always go back in with some of the other colors, but I want it to follow, kind of like what I did in my drawing. So I'm just going to put this around. Like the lighter color, like yellow, I could almost just paint the yellow everywhere. And, because I could put the other colors on top of the yellow once it dries, because it's easy to cover over yellow because it's light, right? Makes sense, right? You guys understand that. I am going to put a little bit of yellow down in the base though, because I don't want the base to be completely without, oops, accidentally just got some red on my paintbrush. So it's a really good idea to kind of work with one color at a time because that way your paintbrush stays cleaner. And your colors will be pure. Like there's a term that painters use. It's called when your color gets muddy, right? And the way that your colors get muddy is when you accidentally mix a bunch of colors together and they go towards brown, right? That's what happens. It's like the more colors you mix together, the more they're likely to kind of go to like brown or gray or more like muddy colors. Now I'm going to mix some orange, right? So I'm putting my dark color red into my light color, right? Not the opposite way around. I got to put this down so I can. All right, so there I got a nice orange mixed over here. I'm going to add a little bit of water to make it nice and flowy. And now I'm going to put this everywhere. So I want orange in the bottom for sure because orange is complementary color to blue, and that'll make the blue on the bottom stand out much more. And now I'm going to just start to try to get as much orange in other areas as possible. I always think that orange is one of my favorite colors. And then I'll go through this mood where I'm like, you know what? I'm back to red. So I think I don't have a favorite color. I think I love all the colors. Like none really deserves more attention than the other, in my opinion. All right. I want to mix some green. I'm going to mix some green before I use up all my areas. So as you know, green is blue and yellow. So yellow is the lighter color. So I'm going to mix some blue into my yellow instead of the opposite way around. And I'll get some green. Now I kind of want to have a lighter green. I don't want to be a real dark green. So I'm going to try to get a lot of yellow into the blue. I'm going to add a little bit of water so it's flowy. And just go put that on a couple of places. Bring that idea of the color kind of being everywhere, even though it might be concentrated more in one area. And I'm running out of places to put color. I almost have all of my white covered up. Make sure you're turning your sculpture so that you're seeing all the areas that need color because you need to activate every area, right? You want your entire sculpture to be covered. Take advantage of every area that you can. All right, so I'm just going to put some more color down here on my base. I'm going to put some greens and blues together. And then I'll call it a day. Here's some purple. I have some purple over here. All right. So I'm just going to add a little bit more color to the sides over here. I think I'll do that after class. But there's my sculpture. I have some edges. I have some edges, right? Some edges here with these guys are sticking out. My hollows, my shapes form. And I think I have pretty good flow because I feel like the stripes of my color are reinforcing that upward movement. I think I like this side better. Anyway, that is my future sculpture. And hopefully you're on your way to finishing yours up. Put this down.